I want to bring on now Toby, who has wants to talk about a recent video that Mike did. So I'll bring Mike on as well. Yobi, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey, Alice.
I can hear you.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Hey.
Pretty good.
Okay, great. I wanted to give you a shout out and props on the recent video that you made about the faceless, nameless entity that made a video.
I don't know what you're talking about.
that faceless, voiceless entity that made a video about how the MRM is going to die or something like that.
The point being that there's not just one of those. There's loads of them.
Well, there's more videos, you mean?
No, there's going to be loads of faceless, nameless entities saying stop attacking feminism, don't support men's rights. Just saying.
Well, there's there are like a couple people that have faces, of course, like that one guy that makes wrestling references to discredit men's rights and ABFM and all that, and that other Satanist that used to... Incidentally,
there is a huge difference between ABFM and the men's rights movement, and I would really appreciate it if people could stop, talking as though they're the same thing.
Well, as far as like men's rights goes, like ABFM is the biggest website, and I give props to ABFM for holding those press conferences every year, which is like those nameless, faceless entities are saying that MRIs aren't doing anything. But what about those conferences? Those are like getting people together and to talk about men's issues. And I'm like, why are you saying that we're not doing anything? That makes no sense because we're doing that. We're doing this stuff.
It's the exact same argument I read in the Telegraph the other week. A lot of you will have read it as well. And you're saying the problem with men's rights advocates is all they do is attack feminists. Have you heard of anti-feminists? Most of the people on YouTube attacking feminism don't call themselves men's rights advocates. They just call themselves anti-feminists. And yet you're attacking men's rights advocates for only attacking feminists. What the fuck is happening with your language, people? Stop this bullshit.
Yeah, that reminds me of like...
Okay,
I can understand it because there's a huge overlap.
I have attacked feminists, and the problem is that feminists put first a point of view and a social argument that literally makes it much, much, much more difficult to get men's vulnerabilities recognized, because they have created this excuse for ignoring how men are being hurt that has this scientific meaning. And
it all boils down to
function.
Do you remember, like, at the Detroit conference, right? There was this, at the Kennesaw State conference, there was this guy, and he stood up at the end of every talk, and he said, I was just wondering, when we're going to actually, do something and, enact our own policies and, find our own solutions and, stop attacking feminism, and actually do something. How do we help male victims of domestic violence without convincing the people in charge of things that the feminist model is not the model to work with, that the feminist model is a giant steaming pile of fucking horse shit? How do you convince them to change the policy without attacking the policies that are entrenched right now? And in order to attack those, you have to say, these are feminist policies, they're based on a flawed model of the situation, right? You have to attack feminism to get people to remove the policies that are already entrenched, right? And put in something that is more holistic. You can't convince them to adopt your policies if you can't convince them the policies that they're already using are wrong, right? If you're not willing to attack those policies, and you can't attack the policies without attacking the ideology that formed those policies. There's a huge overlap. There's a huge overlap between men's rights and anti-feminism, right? But it's very much a Venn diagram with a whole bunch of circles, right? Like, I have nothing in common with that Christian fundamentalist or that Islamic imam, right, who's against feminism for their particular reasons. No, I'm just against feminism because it's bullshit. It's complete fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
You cannot deal with men's issues when you're looking at a social model that defines the metric of morality in terms of benefit to women. That's what feminism does. And even the imam and Christian fundamentalists, they just define benefit to women along they're a metric instead of imperial, essentially.
Yes.
But feminism is metric, religion is imperial. And that's the argument that they're having. You cannot actually properly address men's issue until you question defining morality of society based on benefiting women and make sure that women are safe and protected. Period. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah. I have a question for, some of a rhetorical question for the fence sitters who may be watching the show and maybe listening in. And it's this. How can we begin to promote a form of understanding between the genders when we have people who actually believe that having certain things mean that you're taking something from someone else by the mere virtue of being white or male, that somehow you are taking things from other people just by having those inherent things? How are we supposed to make people less hateful towards each other? How are we supposed to promote that kind of understanding and bridge the divide between the genders when there are people who are enforcing this idea of multi-layers of privilege and power and how you're always oppressed by somebody? How are we going to do that?
We're not.
No. Just going to breed more hate.
Yeah, no, it's not even hate. It's resentment and jealousy.
Yeah.
Right, and envy. This is really the thing. I mean, because, they did an experiment with kids, right? With little kids, and these are kids that have not developed a sense of empathy yet. They're like 3 years old, 4 years old, and the whole rest of it. Okay, and they essentially said to this kid, okay, I got all these cookies, right? And you have two choices. Here's the first choice. First choice is you can have 2 cookies and everybody else also has 2 cookies, right? Or you can have 1 cookie and nobody else gets any cookies. And guess which one these kids picked?
I don't know.
They chose 1 cookie and everybody else got no cookies. Almost overwhelmingly, right? And it's because getting more than the next guy, right, means more to an underdeveloped psyche and an underdeveloped sense of empathy and an immature person, right, than everybody benefiting. And I get to profit twice as much by being generous to everybody else.
That's actually a really good explanation for why there really shouldn't be there really shouldn't be a push in MGTOW to say no men's rights activism, to say don't be involved in that, to say don't oppose feminism, because that is the mentality that they're up against. And this is the really bad thing, and this is going to sound horrible, but that's the establishment right now. The establishment right now is the kids who would rather have 1 cookie and nobody else get any than have 2 cookies and everybody else have 2 cookies. That's
I would rather reign
in
in hell than serve in heaven.
And the problem is, for those who think that MGTOW shouldn't fight for men's rights, you know, you have every right to not do it yourself. You don't have to step up to the front lines. You don't have to be the person that's out there debating and pushing and lobbying and all that stuff. I'm not saying that you have to change who you are and what you're doing or anything like that. What I'm saying is you have to realize the dynamic you're working in means that without resistance to feminism, without fighting for men's rights, without somebody doing it, your way of life is going to disappear. The establishment isn't going to ignore you. Those who are people in power, their thing is they want your cookies. They don't, and even if they don't want them for themselves, they don't want you to have them.
I've even seen
those in power will come.
Say that men's rights activists are pussies, but if there's anyone that's going to get them out of a false rape accusation, it's probably the MRAs, right?
Yeah,
so, even though we think they're a bunch of pussies,
Here's the thing. No matter how much people decide they don't like the men's rights movement, no matter how much people decide they don't like anti-feminism, the reality is that if we're not here, the next thing that's going to happen is that those in power will come after you, after your lifestyle, after your independence, and crush it. These are not people willing to allow a group to exist outside their control, unexploited by them, not working to feed their wealth and their power. And if you think you can ignore the ever-growing encroachment on men's civil rights and be allowed to continue to live as you choose, do as you please, be who you are, you're very sadly mistaken. Every man listening, this is your fight, whether you know it or not. You don't have to join the front lines. You don't have to delve into the forums and write your congressman and scream from the rooftops or anything like that. But if you want to have the choice to be MGTOW, to be a pickup artist, to go in and play video games all day, to go to work and feed your family, to be a traditionalist, to be whatever you want to be in your life, it's in your best interest to not oppose other people's choice to do so.
I can concur with everything Hannah says as a MGTOW, if, identity politics is that important to you all. And as a men's rights advocate, I have a strict pro-MGTOW stance because the MRM can't exist without MGTOW. And as a MGTOW, I have a strict pro-MRM stance because MGTOW can't exist without the MRM. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that fair enough, folks?
You always have an additional question. Additional question I'm going to bring back on if I ask this.
I don't even remember what the original question was.
It was to do with Mike's recent video. But let's move on to the next question that he has.
Yeah. Yeah, the MGTOWs are really losing their shit nowadays.